Today I want to show you how to keep track of the hours that you work at your job using something called a time card. A lot of businesses still use these, especially if it's one of your smaller businesses like a locally owned place. They would have you keep track of the hours you worked by hand and at the end of the week pay you based on that. A lot of your bigger businesses, you probably have to clock in and out on a computer and it calculates your hours that way. This ties in pretty closely to the lesson we had a few days ago on how to calculate elapsed time. It's that calculation repeatedly because we're looking at an entire week's worth of work at a time. So this is what a time card looks like for a week. This person in particular works at a hospital gift shop. That's not important. Their name's not important. The only thing that we're going to look at today is how to actually calculate their total hours for the day and for the week. So I'm going to get rid of a couple of pieces of this so I have some room to do some scratch work here. So for each day, I'm interested in when the person clocked in and when they clocked out. If you notice on this time card, they have 2 in and outs for each day. They clocked in the morning, and then I'm assuming here at 11:30, this person took their lunch break, so they clocked out while they had their break and then had to clock back in when their break was over. We'll worry about that at the end. What I'm interested in right now is the difference in time between 6:45 a.m. and 3:45 p.m. So if you remember from the other day, we're going to take and start with our later time, and I'm going to do a whole bunch of scratch work on this one, so you might want to grab a sheet of paper. Their later time is 3:45 in the afternoon, and I'm going to subtract out their starting time of 6:45 in the morning. So subtracting these is going to be a little tricky since we can't take 6 away from 3. If you remember from the other day, the trick to that is to increase your hours by 12. So now since I've crossed from morning into afternoon, from AM to PM, I can add 12 to that and use something kind of like military time for our purposes. So when I go to subtract these, I subtract my hours. 15 minus 6 is 9 hours, and 45 minutes minus 45 minutes, no minutes. He worked a solid 9 hours that day, but he took a break from 11:30 to 12 o'clock. So I need to go back and subtract off another 30 minutes that he's not getting paid for that day. So this is going to be a lot of scratch work. So I can't subtract 30 minutes from 0 minutes. I've got to borrow an hour. Again, if you remember from the other day, I can borrow from the hour column as long as that increases my minute column by 60. So my 0 minutes is now going to bump up to 60. I can subtract these now. John worked a total of 8 hours and 30 minutes for Monday. So over here in my column, I can write 8 hours, 30 minutes. It's a repetitive process, but you do the same thing every time. You take their afternoon time, the time they clocked out to go home. So for Tuesday, he clocked out at 3:45, and I'm going to subtract off his starting time of 7 o'clock. I'm going to run into a lot of the same issues that I just had. I can't subtract 7 from 3, so I I increase my hours by 12, so that bumps it up to 15. 8 hours, 45 minutes. But again, his break from 11:30 to 12, so I'm going to take off another 30 minutes. So this day, on Tuesday, he worked a total of 8 hours and 15 minutes. Repeat the process over and over and over. Clocked out at 4 o'clock on Wednesday, clocked in at 6:56 in the morning. Well, this one's got all kinds of issues on it. I'm going to have to bump this up to 16, and I can't subtract 56 minutes from 0, so I'm going to borrow from 16 down to 15 hours, 60 minutes. That's probably the most confusing one out of this whole set because you had to increase the hours and then borrow. So I've got 4 minutes and 9 hours. Again, take off for his break. So from 11:45 to 12:30, he took a 45-minute break. Got to borrow. So this is going to bump up to 64 minutes. That is hard to read. 64 minutes. 64 minutes minus 45 minutes, 19. I'd quit this job. 8 hours and 19 minutes. 3 down, 2 to go. Eight hours and 15 minutes on this day. Subtract out a 1 hour break. 7 hours and 15 minutes on Thursday. Last one. 425. Subtract out 710. Can't subtract 7 from 4, so I increase that to 16. That is 9 hours and 15 minutes. Take out his 1 hour break. 8:15. So, give or take, he worked about 8 hours a day. But the way these time cards work, I want a total for the week. So after he's worked Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, whatever, you want to find the total hours that he worked so they can figure out how much he actually needs to get paid. Once you've calculated each hour for each day, you go through and you add them all up for the week. Add up your minutes, 30, 15, 19, 15, 15. That is a total of 94 minutes. It's a little bit different than grade school arithmetic when you're working with 60s. So I've got to bump this up to 1 hour and 34 minutes. So I've got 34 minutes here. Carry over the hour. Now add up all of your hours. 8, it's 15, 23, 31, 39, 40. 40 hours and 34 minutes hospital gift shop.